The local government news roundup is supported this month by LG Innovate 2026, the National AI Summit for Local Government, hosted by Davidson in partnership with Amazon Web Services. If artificial intelligence is on your council's agenda, this is the event to know about. LG Innovate returns to Melbourne Town Hall on the 2nd and 3rd of September, bringing together council CEOs, executive leaders and technology experts for 2 days dedicated entirely to AI in local government. The program includes the launch of the Australian Local Government CEO Index 2026, international perspectives from government leaders in the UK and the United States, and real-world case studies from councils already putting AI to work across Australia. Expect practical, hands-on workshops, as well as relevant theory, plus an exclusive networking evening included in your ticket. And Roundup listeners can purchase their tickets at davidsonwp.com with the promo code LGNews for 15% off before the 21st of August. Registration is required and subject to availability. Full details, including terms and conditions, at davidsonwp.com/LG Innovate 2026. Practical AI insights built for local government. Coming up, a call for calm from Mildura's mayor after a shocking event in the town centre. Hepburn Shire councillors back at work and ready to appoint an interim CEO. A New South Wales council hits back after the OLG declines to act against one of its councillors. A hefty fine for the illegal clearing of native trees in Sydney. The deadline for New Zealand council amalgamation proposals arrives. And how one of the world's biggest cities is cracking down on illegal e-bikes. Hello, I'm Chris Eddy. This is the Local Government News Roundup. Also today, a Tasmanian Council GM and Mayor at odds with a former state MP. That's all ahead on our podcast, brought to you by the VLGA, the national broadcaster on all things local government, Symphony 3, simple, connected customer experiences, and Rath Engineering Development, smarter local government systems built from real, on-the-ground experience. It's Monday the 10th of August 2026. Welcome along to the podcast wherever you're listening in Australia or around the world. Mildura Rural City Council Mayor Ali Cupper released a statement late yesterday addressing community safety concerns following a serious incident in the town centre. It follows an alleged vehicle attack in Langtree Mall that left two 12-year-old boys seriously injured last week. Mayor Cupper has called for calm, acknowledging the anger and heightened emotion in the community. She said the council is in discussions with local stakeholders and emergency services about community safety and a way forward. In more Mildura news, the council has renewed its call for Victorian government assistance to support sunraysia growers recovering from severe autumn storm damage. Mayor Cupper has written to newly appointed Treasurer Colin Brooks, urging the state to address eligibility constraints and deliver targeted financial relief for impacted agricultural businesses. The council says delayed funding for primary producers is continuing to create broader economic strain across the municipality. All of the previously stood-down Hepburn Shire councillors have been reinstated following the DPP's dismissal of private criminal charges last week. Mayor Councillor Tony Clark confirmed the reinstatement on Friday and said a quorum could now be achieved for council meetings and normal governance can resume. He described the situation as an unprecedented attack on local democracy and was critical that the Local Government Act 2020 does not protect councillors from such prosecutions. The council will hold a closed virtual special council meeting at 7 p.m. on Wednesday to consider appointing an interim CEO and engaging a recruitment agency for a permanent CEO search. City of Greater Geelong Councillor Chris Burson has signalled he will retain his councillor role while campaigning for One Nation in the upcoming Victorian state election. That's according to the Geelong Advertiser. The first-term Yuyang's ward councillor has been revealed as the party's lead legislative council candidate for Western Victoria and is said to be all but certain to gain a position. And Melbourne Deputy Lord Mayor Rashina Campbell is also considered a likely new parliamentarian, having been pre-selected by the Victorian Liberal Party to lead its Western Metropolitan Region upper house ticket. Councillor Campbell beat out sitting MP Trung Lu and replaces Moira Deeming, whose pre-selection was recently revoked by the party. Banyule City Council is urging state election candidates to commit to ongoing funding for its local homelessness outreach program. The pilot initiative connects rough sleepers directly with housing, health and welfare support. Council figures show public rough sleeping reports increased by 137% between 2023 and 2024, prompting calls for expanded intake capacity. Some of the stories getting attention in the press now, and the Whitehorse Leader reports how Whitehorse City Council has drawn backlash from residents after scrapping new family membership discounts at its Aqualink facilities in Box Hill and Nunawading. That's raised community concerns over affordability and health during a cost of living crisis. The Age reports on Melbourne City Council's revised Royal Park Master Plan, which proposes lobbying the state government to abolish Melbourne Zoo's $2 a day parking fee cap. The idea is to discourage private car use and free up space for more green areas, while balancing community concerns about access, safety and environmental impacts. And the Port Phillip Leader reports that Port Phillip Council and other inner-city Melbourne councils are calling on the Victorian government for a total ban and crackdown on flavoured nitrous oxide, otherwise known as NANGs. The push comes in response to rising drug-related deaths and injuries, alongside growing municipal costs to clean up and safely dispose of illegally dumped gas canisters. More news from Victorian councils. Moonee Valley is removing 3 public sculptures from the Totems project due to age and irreparable damage. It plans to repurpose the bluestone bases for a new landscaping project at Travancore Park. Wellington Shire has renewed its call for the state government to reconsider the requirement for a mandatory 4th purple-lidded glass recycling bin. A new resolution has been passed after no response was received to a similar request last year. Greater Geelong has opened entries for its annual photographic competition themed Capture the Wonders of Greater Geelong, inviting residents to submit local photos for a chance to be featured in the 2027 community calendar. And the 2026 Ballarat's Best Pie competition is launched for the month of August, with 30 local venues participating. The Shared Tables Sure Wagyu Pie was crowned as the grand prize winner alongside several category champions. Public voting for the People's Choice Award remains open until August 31st. And we note with sadness the passing of the Honourable Shane Marshall AM, a judge of the Federal Court of Australia and the Industrial Relations Court of Australia for more than 20 years, who also served for several years on the Victorian Councillor Conduct Panel. Shane went to school in Mentone and was the first Monash University graduate to be appointed to a federal superior court. He was invested as a member of the Order of Australia in 2020 for services to industrial relations, the law, the judiciary and mental health. Vale Shane Marshall AM. How can local governments build and maintain trust in elected officials? We'll join the VLGA and LGIU for an exclusive global executive live panel on councillor conduct models. On Thursday, the 24th of September, international leaders and governance experts from Australia, the UK and Canada will examine core codes of conduct, independent oversight and enforcement mechanisms that foster effective standards. Featuring insights from Victorian Ombudsman Marlo Baragwanath, Canadian local government author Ian McCormick, and top UK governance executives Charlotte Eisenhart and Mel Stevens. Don't miss this opportunity to gain global perspectives on ethical leadership. Attendance is free for members. Register now at vlga.org.au. Now, for more of the latest local government news, let's head into New South Wales. Oberon Council has hit back after the Office of Local Government declined to act on its call to remove Councillor Helen Hayden from office. Council had referred Councillor Hayden's social media conduct following a fatal crash at Black Springs to the OLG, seeking her removal and a 5-year disqualification. Mayor Councillor Andrew McKibben says the outcome may disappoint those who raised concerns, and the council remains worried the OLG's revised draft model code of conduct could further narrow the scope for regulatory intervention in councillor conduct matters. A gardener in the Lane Cove council area has been fined nearly $200,000 after a court found they helped organise the illegal clearing of 287 native trees on council foreshore land. It was supposedly to improve harbour views from a waterfront home. The New South Wales Land and Environment Court heard the destruction wiped out potential habitat for threatened wildlife and damaged protected bushland, with regeneration expected to take decades. Lane Cove councillors welcomed the ruling, calling it a win for the protection of native bushland. Sutherland Shire Council has voted unanimously to oppose major state-led housing intensification plans across Woolooware, Cronulla, Caringbah and Sylvania. The council is demanding comprehensive infrastructure assessments and state government funding for roads, public transport and schools prior to progress on major high-rise proposals. The St George and Sutherland Shire leader reported the council will write directly to Planning Minister Paul Scully to request that significant developments like the 900 apartment Southgate project undergo full local strategic planning evaluation rather than fast-tracked state pathways. In the state's south, Edward River Council and provider Ochre Health have issued a joint statement confirming collaborative planning for the operator transition at the Deniliquin Medical Centre. The council is currently conducting an expression of interest process to select a future operator, while Ochre Health has agreed to extend its operations by at least 6 weeks past early October to maintain service continuity. All of this follows a decision in July by the council for an early termination of its arrangement with Ochre Health. Wagga Wagga City Council's Entry Point housing program, aiming to deliver lower-cost homes exclusively for first-time buyers, has been commended by Premier Chris Minns in State Parliament. The scheme streamlines regulatory processes on smaller lots and restricts purchasing to non-property owners, preventing real estate investors from competing in the targeted market segment. Region Riverina reported that the Premier praised the council for its innovative approach to addressing regional housing affordability. Meanwhile, Orange City Council has agreed to investigate the impact of short-term rental accommodation on local housing supply. The motion, moved by Councillor Francis Kinghorn at last week's ordinary meeting, will see Council examine how short-term rentals affect the availability of long-term rentals and look at approaches used elsewhere, including nightly caps and business rating structures. The resulting report aims to support an informed community conversation, balancing housing needs with the region's tourism sector. North Sydney Council has launched a 12-month trial to introduce reusable cups at North Sydney Oval. The initiative replaces single-use plastic cups across venue bar services, diverting an estimated 24,000 cups from landfill annually. And Port Stephens Council has voted unanimously to investigate securing eco-destination certification to enhance the region's sustainable tourism credentials. Staff will evaluate the environmental and economic impacts of the global program, which assesses destination management, ecological stewardship and cultural heritage protection. A comprehensive report will be prepared for councillors to consider at a future meeting. In more New South Wales Council news, Byron Shire is taking over direct management of the Bangalow Showgrounds from its volunteer committee after Crown Lands declined an offer to take it over. The council says day-to-day community operations will remain unaffected. Tamworth Council has begun a $1.4 million pedestrian and safety upgrade to the sports and entertainment precinct, including new crossings, lighting, fencing and a shared path. Jointly funded by the Australian and New South Wales governments, construction to be staged from July to December. As part of Local Government Week, Griffith has launched the We're Locals Too campaign to remind residents that council employees are local community members who deserve to be treated with kindness, courtesy and respect. And Georges River has reduced its average DA approval times by 35.2%, one of the most improved in Greater Sydney. Approval times have dropped from 227 to 147 days, while successfully eliminating its aged application backlog. This is the Local Government News Roundup, supported by Symphony 3, Rath Engineering Development and the Victorian Local Governance Association. We're very grateful for the support of our terrific sponsors. Let's move into Queensland for more news, and ABC News is reporting that the Queensland Audit Office has issued a critical report into Townsville City Council. It's over governance and financial reporting failures about the now dissolved company Northern Railyard Development Proprietary Limited. The audit reportedly uncovered non-compliance with statutory requirements, including establishing the council-owned entity without required approval from the State Treasurer. The council has confirmed it will provide additional disclosures in its upcoming financial statements to account for the $624,000 in operational funding provided to the company. Southern Downs Regional Council has defended its budget decision to introduce a non-principal place of residence rating category for the current financial year. Mayor Melissa Hamilton said the differential strategy successfully capped median rate increases for owner-occupiers at 3.5%, keeping rises below inflation. Following a town meeting in Warwick, Council confirmed it will continue addressing community feedback while maintaining the structure best serves the broader region's financial stability. In Logan, the City Council is set to consider a refined investigation scope into Ephemeral Creek flood mapping, following community feedback on the draft Logan plan. The technical review will evaluate mapping methodologies to better distinguish creek systems from overland flow paths for local planning controls. The committee will discuss the proposed scope on the 12th of August, ahead of a final recommendation to Council on the 19th. Marking 6 years until the Brisbane 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games, Ipswich City Council has convened business, sporting and community leaders to refine its long-term legacy strategy. Mayor Teresa Harding said the co-host city was focused on securing lasting infrastructure and economic benefits, including the $200 million North Ipswich Sport and Entertainment Precinct, alongside major commercial investments. The council is leveraging its 2032 Legacy Roadmap to drive intergovernmental funding advocacy, local procurement opportunities and regional community development ahead of the Games. And I have yet more Queensland Council news. Cross-border council cooperation has progressed the Gundawindi Levy Bank project after Moree Plains Shire Council approved a laydown area to store materials for restoring 1.5 kilometres of McIntyre River flood protection works, alongside road sealing for heavy transport, due for completion in late 2027. Noosa Shire and its project partners have officially launched one of Queensland's first community batteries in McGregor Park, Noosaville. The battery stores excess daytime rooftop solar energy to supply clean energy back into the local grid during peak evening hours. And Mount Isa City Council has secured $4 million in combined Queensland Government and Glencore funding toward a $4.7 million mine workers memorial to honour 150 workers alongside broader transition fund investments, with completion expected in late 2027. Don't forget you can find out more about most of the stories featured on our podcast by heading to lgnewsroundup.com. Where available, story links are provided so you can dig a bit deeper if you wish. Let's go now deep down into Tasmania, where Derwent Valley Council is locked in a public dispute with former State MP Casey Farrell following an expression of interest process for the new Norfolk Street Market. This is according to the Mercury. Council General Manager Wes Young questioned Mr Farrell's standing to advocate for the unsuccessful long-term operator, while Mayor Michelle Dracoulis warned against public misinformation impacting staff and community volunteers. Mr Farrell has rejected the council's response as politically motivated. and he says there are broader community concerns regarding municipal governance and local communication. To Meander Valley Council now, which has issued a public apology to a former senior communications officer following the resolution of a workplace discrimination complaint. According to the Mercury, the matter was settled during a conciliation conference prior to reaching a scheduled administrative tribunal hearing. In its latest meeting agenda, the council acknowledged that the experience had a profound impact on the former staff member's health and well-being, expressing regret that further support was not provided during her tenure. City of Hobart Council staffer Abby McKibben has announced she'll run as an independent for mayor in the upcoming Huon Valley Council elections, reports Pulse Tasmania. A long-time Huon Valley resident, Ms McKibben says she wants to bring local government experience back home. Her stated priorities include long-term planning, protecting community services, more transparency and securing greater state investment, including the promised $15 million Huonville Medical Centre. And Central Coast Council has increased ranger patrols at Terrigal Beach to enforce leash laws under the Companion Animals Act, following community safety concerns for arresting subantarctic fur seal. According to Coast Community News, the young seal has frequented the dog-prohibited beach since mid-July, prompting calls for strict enforcement to prevent harassment from domestic dogs. Officers will target peak walking hours along the beach and adjacent boardwalk, with on-the-spot fines of $330 applying to non-compliant pet owners. Up now to the Northern Territory, and Katherine Town Council has written to the NT's Chief Minister after what it says was a frightening youth crime incident in Katherine last week. The council says a stolen car was driven dangerously for hours before crashing, with no apparent police intervention or public warning. Mayor Joanna Holden is again calling for a community safety roundtable and wants authorities to explain the lack of response to the incident. And to Western Australia now, and the city of Bunbury has announced the passing of Deputy Mayor Treslyn Smith following 9 years of service to local government in WA. During her tenure, which included 5 years as Deputy Mayor, Councillor Smith championed community inclusion, civic engagement and regional development. Mayor Jason McGuell paid tribute to her legacy of leadership, acknowledging her significant contributions to council operations and the broader municipality. Her passing comes just 3 months after her husband, former Mayor David Smith, OAM. Vale Treslyn Smith. The Shire of Gingin has issued a statement raising concerns over escalating media reporting and social media commentary targeting council staff. Temporary CEO James Bayliss said inaccurate and unverified claims are creating significant psychosocial risks in the workplace while diverting resources away from core community services. The council has sought legal and insurance advice, with investigations underway into confidential information disclosures and potential police referrals for personal threats. Deep divisions at the City of Bayswater following a heated debate over the council's financial strategy for its budget. The West Australian reported that in a tight 5-4 vote, the council adopted a budget featuring a reduced rate increase of 4.95%, down from the 5.9% figure proposed by officers. The amendment was introduced by Mayor Philomena Pifaretti, prompting concerns from some councillors of the risk of depleting the city's cash reserves and compromising long-term financial sustainability. The town of Cambridge has endorsed its modified draft local planning scheme, pushing back against ministerial directions to increase height limits and expand density corridors. As reported by the West Australian, the council retained lower height caps across key activity centres following community feedback regarding neighbourhood amenity and traffic impacts. The scheme, which replaces guidelines last gazetted in 1998, now sits with the WA Planning Commission for consideration before reaching Planning Minister John Carey for final approval. And a couple of other WA Council notes. The Shire of Northam recently resolved a cybersecurity incident on its website, with no evidence of ongoing unauthorised access. The council says individuals whose website accounts may have been viewed have been contacted. And after a year of staffing shortages, the Shire of Ravensthorpe and Hopetoun administration offices will return to standard 5-day-a-week opening hours from today, Monday, the 10th of August. And as usual, we round out the episode with some news from overseas, and we're going across to New Zealand, where the deadline has come and gone now for the government's Head Start local reform proposals. And here's just a few more of those council decisions that have been made. There's been a flurry of them in the last few days. Western Bay of Plenty District Council has voted to reject a joint amalgamation proposal with Tauranga City Council, reports the NZ Herald. Despite the Western Bay Council opting instead to participate through the government-led backstop process, Tauranga City Council decided to push ahead independently with submitting the Unitary Authority proposal ahead of Sunday's deadline. Hamilton City Council has voted not to submit a proposal for council amalgamation, despite warnings that it could be excluded from further negotiations if the government proceeds with the compulsory backstop process. The council has also voted to return to the first-past-the-post voting system starting in 2028, while also scheduling a voter poll alongside that election to let residents decide the voting system for 2031. Rotorua Lakes Council has failed to reach a consensus on a local government reform proposal during an extraordinary meeting on Friday. Elected members voted 6-5 against approving a modified joint submission, following an earlier narrow vote against opting out of the process entirely. Mayor Tanya Tapsell is seeking an urgent time extension for further discussion and consideration. Kaipara District Council has condemned the Northland Council's staged amalgamation plan and the government's Head Start process as effectively forcing inclusion despite Kaipara's opposition. The council argues it won't deliver real efficiencies and has driven a wedge between councils, according to the NZ Herald. And Christchurch City Council has voted to seek Unitary Authority status under the Head Start pathway, keeping its current boundaries and absorbing Environment Canterbury's functions after rejecting a wider Greater Christchurch amalgamation option. So what happens from here? Submitted proposals will now be assessed by government officials ahead of announcing any approvals next year, along with a backstop process, and any changes will take effect from the next local elections in 2028. We'll head over to the US next, and Claiborne County, Tennessee will soon have to pick a new mayor after voters re-elected Joe Brooks just days after he died in a motorcycle crash. State officials say Brooks's name legally stayed on the ballot, which was held on the 6th of August. The seat will be declared vacant on the 1st of September, with candidates able to qualify in early September ahead of a November 3 election to fill the role. WVLT News has more on that developing story. New York City authorities have issued cease and desist orders to 42 major retailers for selling illegal high-speed e-bikes following a series of fatal crashes. USA Today reports the city is warning sellers they face $2,000 fines per infraction if they continue supplying devices that exceed local motor capacity and speed limits. The City Council is also reviewing existing safety regulations and preparing a 17-bill legislative package to strengthen local enforcement and micro-mobility governance. In Texas, Arlington City Council is considering putting a proposal to voters in 2028 to increase elected official salaries, which have remained unchanged at, get this, $3,000 annually for the mayor and $2,400 for council members since 1980. Mayor Jim Ross suggested deferring the commencement of any pay rise until after current terms end to ensure the proposal focuses on future governance. Proponents argue the reform would reduce financial barriers and broaden participation in local leadership, according to the Fort Worth report. And that's all I have for you today. You've been listening to edition number 626 of the Local Government News Roundup. for Monday the 10th of August 2026. Any comments or feedback can be sent by email to lgweeklynews@gmail.com, and you can find out more about this episode, including all those story links, by heading to lgnewsroundup.com. The podcast is brought to you by the VLGA, the national broadcaster on all things local government, with support from Symphony 3, simple, connected customer experiences, and Rath Engineering Development, smarter local government systems built from real on-the-ground experience. We're also supported this month by LG Innovate 2026, coming up in early September. Don't miss your chance to get an early bird deal by the 21st of August. Details on our website. The Roundup comes to you from Greater Geelong in Victoria, on the land of the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation. I'll be back with more news soon. Until next time, thanks for listening and bye for now. Support for the local government news roundup comes from Rath Engineering Development, smarter systems for local government, like Red GMS, helping councils manage gravel pits and projects, track quality, test results, blending options and haulage, and know the true cost per tonne from day one. Rath Engineering Development can give you a one-off report that uses your existing pit data to pinpoint the best gravel sources for your next resheeting program or disaster restoration works, saving your council time and money. For local government systems built from real on-the-ground experience, talk to the team at Rath Engineering Development. Head to rathed.com.au to find out more.